What's good, everyone? This is Dev, the coolest.
And this is JB.
And welcome to Slick Talk. Hey, what a hashtag. Welcome to Slick Talk, y'all. Via Zoom again.
You know it.
Oh, my goodness. This whole season has been via Zoom.
Yeah, but you know what? We're still getting the message across.
Yeah, it's better safe than sorry, you know?
Exactly. And it just means that it's going to be a lot of great content in store for when we get back in the studio.
Yes, absolutely. So welcome back, y'all. We hope you're still taking care. You're wearing your mask, social distancing. This is our 11th episode of the season, which means the one next week will be our final episode for the season.
Yeah. It went by super quick. It went by super quick.
Right. Like, I mean, in addition to not being able to go anywhere and being right. It's just time. I saw a meme the other day and it was like October came to show face, got their plate and left.
Okay. Listen, for real. Walked around, didn't even say hi to nobody.
Right. Just I'm here. Where's the food? Here. Okay. See y'all next time.
Right.
That is what all the months have been given. Huh?
Yeah, that's been a lot of months this year. I feel like a lot of months have been going so fast.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so hey y'all. So what we're gonna do today is we're going to start the episode. If you haven't heard of this game yet, you must be living under a rock because this game has been played at so many Black functions. I played this with people that were not Black. Because it talks a lot about Black culture, but the game is called Card Revoked.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and since it's only two of us, there's two types of cards. There are opinion or majority rules cards, and then there's like cards with the correct answer. Since we are virtual, the only thing we're going to be doing today are the opinion-based ones. But check out the game; it's really fun. And are you ready for some questions?
Yeah, and after you listen to the episode, let us know who you agree with on some of the questions. Let us know. Let us know who you agree with on some of the questions. I think it'll be interesting to hear people's feedback on, this and kind of make it like a huge game of Black Card Revoked. You know what I'm saying?
Like we had a family reunion.
Exactly, with everybody. Y'all invited to the family reunion right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you disagree with what we said, if you liked another answer better,
that's true.
Yeah. All right. So the first question is, and then we're going to get into a topic after this, but this is kind of just us like an icebreaker for everyone.
Exactly.
All right. You ready, JB?
I am good.
All right. When are Black folks most likely to change their voice? A, when a bill collector calls. B, at work. C, in front of white folks, or D, at church?
So should I go first?
Okay. Oh, it's backwards.
Okay. No, I can still see it.
Okay.
Yeah. I already have my answer. I think.
Okay. Go ahead.
So what I do want to say to connect it to a previous episode is that we had an episode about this called code switching. Go look back in Season one, we had an episode about this, and that's essentially what this is code switching. And I believe that code switching happens the most with Black people at work. I feel like we definitely get to work, and we already don't want to be bothered, but when we first get there, but when we get settled in and everything, and we end up getting bothered, we definitely switch it up.
Give that little fake smile, and I agree. That's what, because I'm not changing nothing for no white people, and bill collectors get hung up on.
Exactly,
the most ratchet. So
the only time I'm gonna have to change my voice is when it's affecting my coin. Okay, let's be clear.
All right. So, which R&B songstress would you want to have your back in a fight? A, K. Michelle. B, Rihanna, C, Keisha Cole, or D, Solange?
The first thing that comes to my mind when I read this right now, when you read that, get the fuck off my porch, bitch. Get the fuck off my porch, bitch. Yeah, get the fuck off my porch.
Get your ass off my porch.
Get your ass off my motherfucking porch, bitch. But I'm not choosing K Michelle. I'm definitely probably going to choose it says K Michelle, Rihanna, Keisha Cole, or Solange. I'm going to go with Solange. I mean, those kicks and punches on that elevator, when I tell you, she brought out the spirit, the little spirits that she probably be conjuring up in New Orleans. She brought out the spirits on that elevator and put Jay-Z in his place, and he was scared in the corner. So I'm going with Solange.
Well, Solange is a close second for me because I agree with everything you said. But my first choice would be Keisha Cole, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Please.
Because she's from East Oakland, and East Oakland girls, baby.
Do they get it in?
They sure do. They sure do. She doesn't come across as violent, but trust me, those are the ones you want to watch out for.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And she's still East Oakland down too. That's the great thing about it. Like she ain't lost her step in that. She's like, yeah, I may have this fame and this fortune, but y'all gonna know I'm from East Oakland. I still got it in me. So I can see that. I can see that.
Okay. What kind of fish is best to fry for a fish sandwich? A, whiting, B, tilapia, C, perch, or D, catfish?
So I'm gonna let you go. Do you want to go first this
time?
I
can go first. I would say for a fish sandwich, I'm a bougie Black person, so I'm gonna say whiting.
Oh.
And whiting isn't even the top grade of fish, but I can't eat bottom feeders like tilapia and catfish. I just I have, and I probably will again. But if I had to choose, I would choose whiting. What about you? I've never had perch that I know of, so that's just eliminated by default.
Right. I think that's the same with me. I don't think I've ever had perch either. Come on, perch. Hey, perch, the inside joke with this. But so I'm not gonna pick perch. I'm probably gonna pick, if I had to choose, it's gonna be out of the bottom feeders, actually. It's gonna be out of tilapia and it's gonna be out of catfish. And I would probably say tilapia, only because like catfish is like good standalone. Like it's good to have like catfish and then maybe some rice on the side. It's fulfilling. And then tilapia, I only see like small pieces of tilapia all the time.
Right, tilapia is a pretty small fish, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like I can just jump a couple of pieces on a bread with mayonnaise.
Yes, and tartar.
Don't eat mayonnaise. Judge me, don't judge me.
Okay. Oh, this is a good one. So, who is the baddest reality show chick? Is it A, Cardi B, B, Jocelyn Hernandez, C, Portia Williams, or D, Malaysia Pargo?
Okay. So
that's
funny. I'm definitely gonna go. Oh, I know who I'm choosing. I'm gonna go with the Puerto Rican princess, aka Jocelyn Hernandez.
Yes.
Cause I will be honest with y'all, I've never watched a full season of Love and Hip Hop, Basketball Wives, Atlanta Housewives of Atlanta, or anything. I've never watched a full season of those type of reality shows, but I have come across so many episodes of Love and Hip Hop with Jocelyn Hernandez over there on it, and I'm like, this girl, listen, she never backed down. She said what she was gonna say. You know, I posted a clip actually of her on my story other day. I posted a clip of her the other day on my story, but she said something about like, I ain't broke, you know, and she said, bitch, I'm international, and that sold me. I said, if a bitch could be international, listen, that bitch is untouchable.
Listen, make it move.
Yeah.
And my assumption, and I think you're assuming the same thing, is when they say by baddest, they're talking about like looks.
Oh no, I wasn't talking about that at all.
Or like, what were you thinking?
I was talking about baddest because it's. I mean, they
who's the boss? Like, who's the most like
who's the bad, like a bad guy, like a bad girl.
Okay, so that's why now we're on the same page, and I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Because Portia is messy. Portia do be stirring up some stuff. But I was going to say Portia because I was reading baddest as who looks the best. And
yeah, if they were having it that type of baddest, Cardi B wouldn't be on that list. But so what's the? I'm just saying because I mean, come on, really?
Well, yeah, and Jocelyn probably wouldn't be on it either.
Yeah, I mean, they literally. I'll give them they have body, but that's about it. And I wouldn't. Yeah, if that was the case, though, I would include Portia. Portia is actually a pretty girl.
Yeah, but baddest with regard to how they behave, I would say Jocelyn for sure. Yeah. All right, best blue-eyed soul singer.
Oh, I think I know these. There's what, Adele. Let me see if I can get
Sam Smith, Adele, Robin Thicke, and Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. So I played this part before. I played this one before, and I chose. Who did I choose? Oh, you know what I choose? I chose Adele.
Yes. Hello.
So I chose Adele. However, that's what I chose first, but I'm not choosing her this time.
Who are you choosing this time?
I'm choosing. You see how I paused too? I said I'm not choosing her this time because you know, so the people that I played with at that time had some great points to make. They had some great points to make, so they sway. Even though I had already said my answer and you know pick who I chose, they swayed me to saying Robin Thicke. So Robin Thicke is my answer for this game. Thank you.
Okay.
Who do you think?
Best. I don't know. That's out of all of them, the only two that I've like listened to their whole albums would be between Robin Thicke and Justin Timberlake. Mm-hmm. And out of those two, I'm gonna say Justin Timberlake only because he has. Well, Robin Thicke does too. So actually, no, that wouldn't be fair. I was gonna say he has a lot more closer ties to Black people. But they both.
Yeah, Robin Thicke was married to a Black woman.
Right, and yeah, he's connected with like Pharrell and stuff too. So, yeah. But I'm gonna say Justin Timberlake only because I listened to him most recently.
Okay.
Most recently. Okay. Which food do you ask a certain family member to make because nobody else can make it right? Is it A, the mac and cheese, B, potato salad, C, deviled eggs, or D, dressing?
Oh, damn, all of them? Alex, I'll take all of them for $20,000.
Please? All of the above?
No, I'm definitely going to say...
what?
Definitely going to say potato salad.
Okay.
Definitely going to say potato salad. Potato salad is difficult to make.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So it's going to either be... I would say mac and cheese, because if somebody brings some, that's just gonna ruin the whole plate.
Yeah, that's true.
Like if you don't make the mac and cheese for me.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite. Yeah. if you are attempting or if you get asked to make some macaroni and cheese and you're Black, listen, if you come and you don't even get it a little right, you should be banned from the family. Because at this point, you're being disrespectful to what our ancestors and our cultures should be done. So, yes.
Okay. Which TV dad do you wish was your own? A, Lucius Lyon, B, Carl Winslow, C, Philip Banks, or D, Heathcliff Huxtable?
Okay, so I'm gonna go down and break them down for you guys on why I choose one. Lucius Lyon, definitely not, because he threw his son in the garbage. His son was gay on the show. He threw his gay son in the garbage. I'm gay, so he's not about to throw me in no garbage.
That's an automatic no.
That's an automatic no. Let me see the B. B is Carl Winslow. No, because he was a cop, and I don't want to be a cop. Like that's a no.
You wouldn't be the cop, though. Your dad would be the cop.
Huh?
You wouldn't be the cop, though. Your dad would be the cop.
I thought it was TV dads. Carl Winslow is the dad.
Yeah, it said which TV dad do you wish was your own? And you said you wouldn't. You wouldn't choose because.
No. Okay. Well, same difference. I wouldn't want my dad to be a cop. Okay, so I don't want him to be a cop for reasons because I don't want him to be a cop as well as it's risking your life. So
Right.
yeah, and then
Bill
Heathcliff Huxtable, no, because we already know about what kind of person he is outside of the character on the show. He was too stuffy too. He was a doctor, right?
Yeah.
Bill Cosby was too stuffy on the Cosby Show. So no, I'll definitely choose Philip Banks, and I'm gonna tell you why real quick, and then you can go. Choose Philip Banks because definitely he was like the overall dad. Like he was supposed to be a judge, but there was times where he was just so cool on the show, and he agreed to have Will come and live with them, and he had money. They had a butler. So I would definitely want him to be, and then he took Will in like he was his own son.
Right.
So
and you know what episode I really like is the one where he
Daddy don't love me. That one?
Oh no, not that one. That was a really sad one. But the one where he had to break him out of prison, when he had to get them out of jail and got those cops together.
Right. My favorite one is when they were supposed to go camping, and their car ran out of gas because they got lost, and they got really, really cold, and then they ended up all going inside of they went inside in the mountains. They had to walk, and their cell phone wasn't working. Went to the mountains, and then Will found some money inside of the cave. That was my favorite one.
What are the odds?
I know, right?
Okay. Let's do. Oh, I agree. That's the same for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I would actually the Huxtables would be a close second because they were rich, but also
stuffy.
Right, but Phil Banks is rich too, so.
Yeah, Phil Banks was cool, but yeah, it was way more laid back.
Okay, so let's do how many more? About 3 more?
Oh, you want to do 3 more? Okay, that's fine.
Or how many more do you think?
Let's just do 2 more.
These rapid rounds. Huh?
Oh, it's up to you. I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. We usually be speed rounds. Let's do 3 more. Best female R&B group of the 90s. A, SWV, B, Escape, C, In Vogue, or D, TLC. This is going to ruffle some feathers.
So I'm definitely choosing Escape.
Okay.
And I'm choosing Escape is because I actually like their first album, or first or second, Traces of My Lipstick, is kind of like it's like a love letter to the 90s, if you will. When you think about R&B female groups, that album for me stands out so much, just like TLC's Fan Mail album stands out so much to me. But I'm definitely choosing them. I love not their whole discography, but a lot of songs I can just go on one and be in my feelings and sing word from word. So yeah, word for word. Okay. So what about you?
Mine would be SWV, and only because for me they have in my opinion, have way more bops that I can rock with.
Really?
Yeah. Not to say that Escape doesn't, or that In Vogue doesn't, or TLC doesn't. These are all amazing female groups. But for me, SWV, they had like through your heart and not your mind. Hey, baby, just relax your mind. And what did they have? They have Love Will Be Right Here.
And Weak.
I get so weak. Right. Like they had stuff that I can really just vibe out to. Escape does as well, but like SWV is a mood for me.
If we talk about songs that we can vibe out to, I would vibe out and kind of like be up and everything. I would go with TLC for that. TLC had a lot of
that would be more of a lit vibe, I guess, like for TLC.
Really? What about On the Red Light Special all through the night?
Maybe it's
Red Light Special. They got some songs, but I get what you mean.
They all do though. They all really do. But for me, it would be SWV.
SWV.
Yes.
Okay, come on, then.
All right. What's a good reason for not answering your phone? I think these are all good reasons. But A, it's a bill collector. B, it's your ex with some BS. C, the phone is cut off. Or D, it's somebody asking for money.
Oh, damn, those are all good reasons, like you said. I'm gonna say for not answering your phone. Yeah, I'm gonna pick A because if it's a bill collector, it's not for me. So I don't know why the fuck you're calling my phone. So I'm definitely not gonna answer. But I could definitely possibly see an ex answer and then me cussing him out. You want to be with the bullshit? I'm gonna cuss you out then too. And then the phone cut off. Yes, I mean because AT&T likes to charge people $260 a month. Oh, and then the D is somebody asking for money. Yeah, anybody could ask for money, but you know that doesn't mean
you may not get the answer. So that's you may not get the answer that you want.
I easily say no. Yeah. What about yourself?
I would say for not answering my phone, bill collectors don't call me, but I guess it would be that.
Bill collectors.
Yeah, it'll be A. Because if my ex was calling me with some BS, we gonna be just yelling, talking for each other like we were already before.
What's T? What you gotta say? Oh, okay.
What's the BS this time? You saw me where?
Okay.
You talking about OnlyFans?
Okay. Did you subscribe? Listen.
Did you bust your nut? Now let me stop.
Oh, shut up! I'm done. Did you bust? No. I'm done.
All right, and this is the last one for this game, and then we'll get into our topic. Who taught you how to spell the word independent? Is A, teacher, B, Lil Webby, C, Destiny's Child, D, Lil Boosie. I had to pause, and I was like, why would Destiny's Child be on the list? But I forgot. Arm and Women.
Yeah, I instantly went to that. When they said independent, I started with that song. So definitely Destiny's Child, because my little gay ass was independent.
They told you how to spell independent?
They didn't show me how to spell it, but I definitely was spelling it when I was looking it up to listen to it, or looking on the back of that CD and seeing it said independent woman. So I definitely was looking at the spelling of it and how it looked. So they didn't tell me how to spell it though, but neither did Boosie. What was the answers?
Webby taught me. Webby and a teacher. Webby. Okay. Webby taught me INDEPENDENT. Do you know what that means?
Listen, when that song first came out, he was saying all that, and I still didn't know it meant independent. For the longest, I'm like, what is this dude spelling? Is this what we're putting out now? And then finally, I think the song came on and I seen it on the radio and it said, so whatever it said. But I was like, oh, really? Oh, okay. That's what he was spelling all along. That's crazy.
So but shout out Destiny, shout out. A teacher didn't, I mean, maybe a teacher told me, I don't know. I do know now though, if I do need to spell independent, I sing the word INDEP, or if I need to spell the word bananas, BANANAS. I don't know why.
Oh wow.
My head just goes.
Or what about Mississippi now? M-I, letter, cricket letter I, cricket letter I, humpback I, Mississippi, fly. Whatever he says at the end. So that's how I know Mississippi now. Yeah. Right. Try to write it down. You got to twerk while you writing it down just to get, because the song is in your head. Cricket letter. Anyways, all right. Let's move forward. But
that's Black Card Revoked. There's so many cards that we could go through. This game is really, really fun. We recommend it. They have a lot of additions. Next time.
It's a good time, especially when you've been drinking and stuff like that.
You can make it a drinking game.
Exactly.
But speaking of cookouts, it's such a Black thing to do, and it's been going on for generations.
Listen, a lot of stuff in our community and our culture have been going on for generations.
Generations and generations for years and years and years that have not been addressed or properly addressed and broken. So what we're going to talk about now for a quick sec, or for however long we talk about it, is breaking generational curses. Mm-hmm. So, and a quick definition of a generational curse is basically something that has been passed down from like your great-great-grandparents to your great-grandparents, parents to you. That could be trauma, or it could be like a lifestyle or certain things. That's just the way it is, or that's just the way it has to be, even though it doesn't. So those are examples of generational curses. And we're going to talk about, why haven't they been broken yet in our opinion, and how we can break them and what we can do to actively work towards getting out of those cycles.
Yeah, and also kind of we're going to speak on the damage that they do, damage that they do when they aren't broken, and throughout different generations, like how it just literally plays a part in how we live our day-to-day lives. So yeah.
Yes. So first of all, what I think what we both agree on is that we are our ancestors. There's been some people as of late. There was like this whole hashtag "I am not my ancestors," which was kind of like
insulting
and very insulting. Very insulting. It kind of threw me off. I was like, why would you say that? They did so much for you to reap the benefits that you have right now. We have a ways to go, but without them fighting the way that they did, you wouldn't have them. So it's kind of in the face to our ancestors, to your ancestors, to say, I am not my ancestors, because you are.
Yeah.
Ancestors.
Yeah, I mean, I've come across that a lot, and I get it on an overall picture. I get what they're trying to say. But that is not the proper way to say it, because you're, just like you said, it's diminishing the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears that our ancestors have put in, long time ago. And I think it needs to be more clear, I think, because we're so far removed from the people that first came here and that had to put up with so much. We're so far removed that it's easy for us. And then also, to take it to another level, a lot of information on our ancestors and, what they had to go through isn't being really taught a lot in our schools anymore,
right?
Especially in California. So I think because of that far removed, because we're so far removed in that sense, it's easy for people to believe that they're able to say we are not our ancestors, as if as if they can even sustain what our ancestors had to go through. It's just
and I feel you, because I think that's a part of it, right? Like the lack of education and understanding what our ancestors did go through and what they did do to fight back and how they fought back, right? There were slave rebellions, we had the Black Panther Party. Our ancestors didn't just sit back and allow abuse, you know what I'm saying? But there was systematic things set in place that prevented them from being able to do certain things and fight back. Right? Like, you have to think, like, for so long, the Constitution and laws were established for white men, and it can, and arguably still is, right? So, just like when what did Kanye say about slaves not fighting back or something?
Oh yeah, he was just like racism was a choice.
Right.
Not racism, slavery was a choice.
Oh, slavery was a choice, because that is like, no, it wasn't a choice. Like, people fought back. Like, we're just not being taught about that, right?
But I think basically what I got out of that, when he was saying is that we were enslaved in our minds. So if we knew that we had the power to do more, if everybody that was a slave at that time, this is what I took that he was saying, not what I'm saying, but what I took to what he was saying is that if we knew how much power we had at that time, then we could have revolted. We could have taken over the plantation and killed the slave masters and everything like that.
And that happened. That happened quite a few times.
It did happen. It did. That's insulting to say too. So I just want to say that I don't agree with that, because there were so many factors that played a part on why people didn't revolt and why people didn't stand up to their slave masters, because they had kids, they were threatening their husbands or their wives, they had back in the day, they have slave catchers. So they went out there and tried to and catch you.
That eventually turned into the police.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go to history on it, but there was many. So anyways,
yeah, but no, that is an amazing segue into the next point, in that while, we're standing on their shoulders, a lot of their traumas and experiences, because of all of that, has been passed down all the way up to now. And it manifests in stuff like anxiety and depression, and not feeling like you're good enough, and not thinking that you are going to be able to succeed, right?
Exactly.
It's because a lot of that stuff that had happened, getting whipped and beat for doing something that you were trying to fight the power, right? And, you know, oh, you're going to get whipped. Or if you think like, you know, slave catchers, oh, I'm going to get caught if I do something against it. Like, I think when you think about generational trauma and things that are being passed down, you have to also look at the era of each generation. Because then you have the generation that was in the civil rights era, right? Being watered down by water hoses and bitten by dogs and KKK, like, you know, throwing fire in their windows and stuff. And, you know, then you think about the 70s and 80s and the crack epidemic and all of that. And then you think about where we are now in our generation, what we've had to endure, what we're currently enduring. And I kind of tie that to Darwinism, because Darwinism basically says that it's the survival of the fittest. And the traits that you learn are bad or that will prevent you from succeeding, you push those aside and you focus on the things that are going to get you to where you need to be successful.
And that's what a lot of our people still do to this day. We pull up our bootstraps and we do what needs to be done. We always work. Well, not all of us, obviously, but a lot of us, and what we can say, when we do make it to a certain level, it took a lot of hard work to get there. It took a lot of us, you know, doing twice as much or 3 times as much or 4 times as much as our white counterpart inside of the job in the office. So, you know, it's definitely, I'm happy that we're having this episode, because I definitely think it's important to just highlight, like what you said, is that the fact that, you know, not only do we deal with the traumas that have been passed down from us, but we definitely step it up and we do go above and beyond to like overcome that trauma, to overcome the oppression that we go through, to get to a place where we can finally feel a little bit of comfortable, you know, because we're still Black in America and we understand that and what comes with that. But at least when we work real hard, a lot of us, when we work real hard, we get to a place that we can feel slightly more comfortable, because, you know, the way we're looked at is a little changed, and, you know, our income changes and our neighborhoods change and everything like that. But I think it's important to still understand that even with us doing all that hard work and making it to a certain level and overcoming all these things, there's still trauma that sits in us because we haven't healed, and it's passed down from generations to generation.
Right, absolutely. So why do you feel like it hasn't been addressed or it hasn't been changed yet? Like, why haven't so many people broken it in the past or currently?
Yeah, I think that to be frank, I think Black people have a problem with talking about problems that we go through. You know, I think we don't address issues that have taken place in our communities, in our households, and our culture for decades, you know, for centuries. We just don't, not centuries, but we don't necessarily address like mental health, or we don't address kind of like physical abuse that goes on, or sometimes sexual abuse, or, you know, financial literacy. We don't address that. We don't address, a lot of us don't address these things because we don't know how to speak about them. We don't know how to, you know, talk about them.
Yeah. And we've also kind of learned how to cope with it, and just
exactly
as a normal thing, like the disgusting uncle looking at our little cousin you know, oh, that's just how, you know, he is. And it's like, no, that's not okay.
And it turns into, when you think about it, it literally turns into a trauma for that, you know, it could turn in for a trauma for that girl that is getting looked at by her uncle. It's just little things that I feel like just add and keep on adding on to things that have already played a part with us growing up. And I'm not saying that it's with everyone, do want to make that clear, but with a lot of us, it's just little things like that just add to bigger problems and give us anxiety or depression and things like that. And then we don't handle that, and we, you know, it's a lot. But why do you think we don't discuss them?
Or we haven't broken it yet? Because we didn't recognize them. Like I was just saying, like, we've learned to cope with certain things and just accept it as the normal, as that's how it's supposed to be. And most times it's not. You know, I don't know where down the line we kind of, this rule book was written that this is how you have to live. You have to live in this trauma because this is what you are supposed to do. This is the Black experience. This is the Black life. You have to do this, and this is what you have to do to get through it.
Yeah.
And I think now there's an awakening happening generally with our generation, and even the generation before us. They're getting a little older, but they're starting to recognize that, you know, why do we have to be okay with that? Like, why do we have to feel like that's something that needs to be done or needs to be passed down, or I need to lead my life this certain way, right?
No, absolutely.
So while I think it hasn't been broken because we've just accepted it as a norm, now we're recognizing like, no, it's not normal.
Exactly.
And so now we're going to address it, and now we're going to make changes to it. But also, I think religion definitely played a huge role in it. I know our listeners probably like, oh, y'all talking about church a lot more recently. Right. It's nothing against church. I grew up religious, so I'm not bashing the church or anything, but I will say that it definitely played a huge part in, I guess, being conservative in the ways that you look at the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you're following the Bible, and then you're following the interpretation of a Black pastor that learned from another Black pastor. So you're learning the same interpretation of a Bible, which may or may not be true, and you're leading that life because of it, right? So like,
that's a great point.
Yeah, for example, like the whole gay thing, you know, for generations and generations, people were like suicidal and not really liking themselves because they were gay, but they're being taught that it's wrong. So, you know, that's kind of like trauma in their head. They're just like, oh my goodness, like I really want to, I can't like the same sex or the opposite sex, you know, but I have to force myself to do it so I won't be looked at this certain way. And then because of that, that person may grow animosity and try to force that into the next generation, and then into the next generation. And that, a lot of that stems from religious teachings.
So we are, I'm sorry, were you saying you're?
No, that's it.
So we are talking about generational traumas and traumas, you know, that happen in our families and our communities. What would you say are some of the biggest traumas that we go through in our households and our community? What would you say? Some of the things that's consistent. I think you named one already.
Yeah, I would say abuse. Physical abuse and mental abuse, because that's just how you're supposed to be raised, being whipped and yelled at and talked about in certain ways. Substance abuse, like alcoholism, being addicted to drugs. It's just seeing that over the years from your from your parents, your grandparents, kind of just falling in line with that. I already said religion.
I mean, those two are good.
Yeah, what else do you think?
Abuse and physical abuse, definitely. When it comes to, you know, it's an interesting conversation though, because whereas a lot of us can go through receiving like beatings or something, like getting whipped or whatever for getting in trouble, like, oh, I'm whoop you, go get the belt, everything like that. A lot of us like learn from that too, and don't take that over to treat our kids. Because me personally, like, I know there were times back in the day I used to get whippings for like doing something wrong or messing up, but I already vowed to myself that I wouldn't do that to my child.
Right, breaking the generational curses.
Breaking the generational curses, which is important, but it's crazy because I feel like whereas we can mentally think about that and think about not doing that, I feel like where it turns and becomes a problem and it's a trauma is the fact that it could come up even without you intending to do that. Like, I'm saying that I wouldn't do that to my kids, but when I have kids is when the action comes. So I have to go above and beyond to remember that this was a trauma that I experienced. Let me not put this on them, but I'll constantly remember it because I still know that it's still a trauma that's in the back of my head that I probably, you know, who knows if I completely worked out.
Right. You know, whipping definitely came from slavery. And they pass on down the line, because it's like, that's how they got us back in line, back in slavery time. And that's how they, you know, it just kept going. Also, that's so physical abuse, mental abuse, So calling black kids stupid, like, oh my God, you stupid. Are you dumb like your daddy? Or, you know what I'm saying?
Or just cracking on them in general, like clowning. Like,
right.
look at y'all, get y'all bow-legged and laughing about it like it's funny. You
and
know.
I just laughed and I'm sorry.
No. No. But you know how black families be doing.
Right.
Oh,
right.
look at your little big head. Like some people don't, like I used to get that a lot. Look at our little big head itself. Like, okay,
like,
yeah.
Like, so then the insecurities start to come, and then that's when we start calling other people names because we got to make ourselves feel better, right?
Yeah.
And then the substance abuse, like seeing your parents drinking growing up, or smoking, or doing anything, cigarettes, whatever. Like you kind of take that on because it's like, oh, well, that's what it's supposed to be. That was really bad on one side of my family. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like everybody smoking cigarettes for real.
And I think another thing that stands out for me is I don't know what I could say to probably say it, but I would think that financial irresponsibility is one of our biggest curses too, generational curses.
And when you say that, do you mean in the sense of like people focus more so on like materialistic wealth?
I'm talking about people focusing on materialistic. I'm talking about us not really knowing what to do and what to do specifically with our money. You know, if we were to get a lot of money in, we don't necessarily know what the what quickly to do to make sure that our money grows, and
and
things like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, that has a lot to do with lack of access to resources that haven't had since ever. Mm-hmm. Like we kind of learn as we go, or that's what we've done in the past. So I think it's really with that, it's like, that's more of a systemic thing. Like we weren't taught about how to manage credit cards, and we weren't taught about stocks and bonds and stuff like that. Like, I think that's
no, I totally agree in that aspect. But what I'm looking at in that moment is the fact that, like, I feel like we have access to that. You know what I'm saying?
We don't know. Usually.
Don't know, but I'm not gonna, at the same time, I'm also not gonna I feel like that'll be a cop-out to say that we all don't know.
Now we do. I'm but just saying in the past.
I'm even talking about like in the 90s, like early 90s, like the economy was booming. Black people had more money per household than they do now in the 90s. So I'm thinking back in those times, yeah, it is a systemic thing, and we have lack of resources and everything like that. But I feel like overall, what was stopping a lot of people from, looking at the TV or looking at TV and seeing somebody else that was doing it, or going to school and being in school with someone else that had a family that was doing, because there were Black people out there that were investing and that were, doing other things and buying property in the 90s and everything like that. So what was stopping people specifically from doing what they seen other Black people do? Well, I'm curious about that.
Like, it's really access, because then you have to think that's people that are going to college and have the means to go to college, right? Or have figured out the means to go to college. Like, yes, those people probably did put in work, but if you think back even before that, like the 90s is when we kind of started to wake up as a community, I believe, to where we are now, right? The 90s was only 30 years ago. It started 30 years ago. And so now it kind of was a catalyst for us to recognize, like, okay, like, while the HBCUs have always been there, it's like, oh, let me go to this HBCU. Like, they really started to pop in the 90s. They kept booming from there. I feel and hear what you're saying. I'm just thinking generationally long term. And it also ties into generational wealth. Mm-hmm. A lot of Black people didn't know about a lot of stuff because we didn't have the means to, with regard to finances, to know how, like, okay, so this is how interest work. This is how, like, I'm sure Black people knew. I'm not saying that Black people were dumb or they did, like, overall, like, we didn't know, but I'm just saying, like, when you think of redlining and you think of just different stuff that was put into place, we weren't really set up to benefit from generational wealth like white people were, quite frankly.
Yeah,
they started the generational wealth thing back in slavery off of our backs. We had to catch up 400 years later in the game. So now we're building generational wealth now because we're learning, and we're like, because the next component is how do we start breaking these generational cycles? It's like by learning and understanding. You know, we are hundreds of years behind, centuries behind with regard to being able to be on that level, to do what we can now. Black people are buying homes now. Black people, again, you know, like we're not staying in apartments for our whole lives. We're not renting from people forever, you know, and we're learning. Black people are now investing in stocks. A lot of my friends are investing in stocks. I invest in a lot of stock. You know what I'm saying?
So what would you say to someone that like a Black family or something that is living right, that is, you know, right now that lives in a, like, say for example, it's a family of 5. They live in a 2-bedroom apartment. What would you say to them if they have no knowledge, lack of knowledge on investing, lack of knowledge on, you know, saving their money, spending their money properly? What can you tell someone that is going through financial issues right now? What would you tell someone right now? Because basically what I'm trying to get at is that I completely get what you mean, but playing devil's advocate and looking at the other side, which is essentially like, okay, you guys may not have as much access as your counterparts, your white counterparts, and there may have been systems that played a part with holding you back from learning how to do these things. But also, what's stopping you from going out and educating yourself?
Because I think, to go back to what I said earlier, I think a lot of people believe that is what they were brought up in and taught was how it was supposed to be.
So a generational curse.
Exactly, the generational. That is just how it's supposed to be. So, you know, even in my personal story, my mom didn't know anything about anything. I didn't, and because she didn't know and I'm speaking on, she knows about stuff, but she didn't know anything like with regard to college and education and that process. And because no one in my family went to college before I did. So I had to go through it and kind of like learn as I went. But after college, I was able to look back and see that there were so many resources that I didn't know about because my family didn't know about it. No one around my family knew about it, right? There were so many resources I could have tapped into. I used some resources. There was so much more, so many training things, so many things to like experience and explore outside of sports.
So essentially you broke the generational. I just wanted to establish that I believe that is one of the biggest generational curses, is the fact that we don't pass down, or we don't learn that information ourselves. Because it's one thing to learn it yourself, but then the next step for me personally, I believe the next step is passing it down. You know what I'm saying? Because I can be a single man my whole life and learn all this information, but then it turns into a generational curse for me if I don't give out this information. If I don't tell my nephew, like, oh, save your money and invest in your money and do this and blah, blah, blah. So I was trying to establish that point for my benefit, in a sense, to establish that. To me, I think that's kind of like one of the biggest things, because in America, like, you know, on top of us being, you know, systematically oppressed, you know, our whole life and for a long time, for a lot of us, and this is just a sidebar, for a lot of us, I feel like sometimes we're our own, you know, worst enemies as well. You know, like we have oppression, and then we have things that are going on in our mind that we learn, hence the episode, that we've learned over time, or that our parents told us, spoken to us, and we get caught up and we stay in there. We stay in that space of believing what we see, as opposed to kind of like going out of your box and trying to learn more things and know different things. So I just basically want to say that it's a responsibility on us as well. And this is to transition into how to break the generational curses, but it's a responsibility on us to make sure that if we feel like something is wrong, or if something looks different from something that we believe is successful, to go out and do our own research, even if it is coming within our family.
Right, so. Absolutely. I take that as, I have a saying that I say all the time: pass the lesson, not the experience. unless it's warranted. But pass on the lesson. This is what it is, but you don't have to experience it the way that I experienced it. Right? Like I said, unless it's warranted, and you need to explain the experience. But yeah, pass the lesson, not the experience. But now to wrap it up with regard to how we can break them or how we can work on it to end them. I think.
One second before you start, I do want to say something before we go to that part. Not to cut you off, but one thing we didn't discuss too, that's in the back of my mind too, is colorism is as a generational curse.
Oh, absolutely.
I honestly am upset that in 2020, we are still favoring, in our communities and a lot of our families, we are still favoring one skin tone over the other. Light skin versus dark skin, and putting each other over, against each other for those specific reasons. Light skin over dark skin, fat versus skinny, those type of discriminatory acts that we do in our own family is also one of a huge generational curse that I feel like we face. But I just wanted to highlight that real fast.
Yeah, my great grandmother didn't like my grandmother because she was dark skinned. And like that whole, and then that kind of like trickled down to, insecurities with parents, and my mom is darker skinned, and, I'm darker skinned as well. So I love my skin though. I'm not like, but that's a really good point. And I think to start working on it, we need to work on ourselves, go to therapy. Like you said earlier on in this segment, we've been taught to kind of like accept it as it is and not do the work to make it better for ourselves with regard to our mental health. So definitely go into therapy. And if you can find a Black therapist, and I'm speaking to Black people specifically, or if any race, I would say find a therapist that aligns with your experience, your lived experience. So I would recommend a Black therapist for my fellow Black people. And just talking about how you were raised, getting into about how your parents were raised and how that could have affect your upbringing, and as far back as you can go, and just kind of recognize it. And when you recognize it, you will do the active work to change it. Like JB was saying earlier with regard to physically abusing kids. Like we don't want to do that. That's not something that we plan on doing. But if we don't address it and address that it's in the back of our mind, we may be a little bit more liable to act on it.
To repeat it,
and do it. So that therapy for sure, just to call up all of that stuff and address it.
So I would say literally I feel like we live in a time where there's so much information out there. Like you don't have to necessarily go to school anymore. Well, I'm talking about like after graduating high school or anything like that. You don't have to go to college or whatever to get more information or to get a degree on your own in your head. You can learn just as much as information as somebody that is getting a degree through college. So that's what I feel that needs to be done, is that more people just need to start reading more books on financial literacy, reading more books on, breaking cycles. They have books on breaking generational curses and breaking, trauma, generational trauma and everything like that. And then also talking to people about it. I don't think we talked, like I said earlier on the show, is that the first step for me on breaking these curses and breaking the cycles and the trauma is to acknowledge it, to say, okay, so these are the things that are going on. We're actually acknowledging that these aren't good. We're talking about whippings, like these aren't good. We talk about them a lot. We laugh about them on, when we watch them on a show or whatever the case may be. But deep down, I think it's important to recognize that there's a problem, and then, like what we're discussing right now, go ahead and find a way to fix that. Me personally, I do research. I definitely agree of going to a therapist as well. The reason why I would say that as like number two is because I feel like a lot of Black people honestly just don't want to go and talk about their problems to someone that they don't really.
But that's a problem.
Yeah, but that is a problem only if that's the only solution for them to get over what they're going through. But I feel like there are other options to do to kind of like break these cycles. Because, you know, you and I both said that we are not going to whip our children. You know, we didn't have to go speak to a therapist to find out that that was wrong. I personally haven't went to a therapist and told them that when I was getting whoopings that it literally played a part in my mental health, and I hope that I don't do it anymore, or whatever the case may be. I've never said that to a therapist, but I literally just grew up and came to the conclusion that I don't want to do that. I thought back about how I felt at that time and came to my own conclusion. So, you know, therapy will definitely work for tons of people.
I think it can. I definitely feel like it can play hand in hand. Like, because therapy is not just sitting there talking about your problems. You have homework to do too. I've gone through therapy for a while. I haven't gone in a while, but I had to for a while. And you don't just go and talk and they tell you, okay, and they just listen to you. They, for the most part, are pretty engaged, and they give you homework to go home. Like, okay, focus on this for the next week, and then we'll talk about it. We'll circle back. And it helps with the acknowledgement of things that come up in your past. Like you said, it's not the end all. It's just definitely something that I recommend, because it's just something that we've been afraid to do, because we associate talking to a therapist with being mentally insane. Another thing that came up in my head before we go, do you think that we are living through and experiencing things that could play into generational trauma for our kids?
Absolutely. I feel like our generation, like what we've gone through, like if you think about it, just, you know, in our lifetime alone, we've experienced Hurricane Katrina. A lot of people experienced Hurricane Katrina when that happened, and there were, you know, kids that are my age now were misplaced. They had to travel to different places outside of New Orleans. You know, they lost their house. Some of them lost their pets. Some of them lost even their family members. Right. So, you know, feeling that hurt and that grief is going to definitely sit inside and kind of like translate to something. It can translate to anger if it's not addressed. You know, we were talking about physical abuse. It can turns to, you know, a sadness, an insecurity that has you acting out, you know, or, you know, making you more sexual, whatever the case may be, an outlet for you to handle yourself that is toxic, and that's a trauma, or that's a curse. And then also we went through 9/11. You know, we went through 9/11, which was traumatic because the people were scared to get on planes, child. Like, you know,
to get on planes from that.
Exactly. So there's that. And then what we're going through now, I think it's important. What I want to say is I think it's important to realize and understand that it doesn't have to be, I don't think a trauma that you hold in your heart doesn't have to be fully in your face transparent. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, like I'm traumatized because I got a whooping, or I'm traumatized because they called me darky. You know, like it doesn't have to be that blatant and that transparent. It could be literally, you know, something as small as, you know, you feeling like them giving you, they're not feeding you every, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's small.
Yeah, I would think something that it's not small, but to your point, something that we really wouldn't initially, or we didn't initially think of as traumatizing, is constantly seeing Black men and women getting killed.
Yeah.
Initially, we saw it and we were just like kind of angry. Now I think we're recognizing that this is actually not healthy for us, but from at the jump, it was kind of just like, oh, we didn't really trip that it was going to have these type of long-term effects.
Exactly. Or even what I'm talking, when I'm saying small, I'm thinking, I've thought of one. I'm thinking about when you're wrestling with your family members or whatever, and they're beating you up and, you know, doing cracks on you. You may think at that time that that's a joke, you know, that they're just joking, but then it turns out that, you know, you start to become insecure, you start looking at yourself different and everything like that. So I'm thinking something like that.
Start small and grow and manifest itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
So definitely, I think it's important that a lot of more people have these type of conversations.
Absolutely.
You know, and
keep having them. I would even encourage having them with your children when you have children.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. when they're old enough to understand, not when they're toddlers, but but definitely like, you know, talk about that with your children and like, hey, like, you know, how do you feel about this? Or have you noticed anything that, you know, is making you feel uncomfortable, or just being blatant and transparent about that, not recognizing that a child's place is not to be disrespected.
Exactly.
I think that's something else that we've always been taught. A child needs to stay in a child's place, but don't disrespect me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? If I'm the child, don't disrespect me. Okay, I can sit up and be quiet, I guess, but don't put me down and belittle me to make me feel like I'm less than you.
And then also realize that, you know, you're going to be you're raising a different generation than when you were raised. So things are going to change throughout our lifetimes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And, you know, just, I feel like another point is just being more open-minded to like, you know, like just being more open-minded to like what is going on with the kids these days and who you're raising and everything like that is really important to recognize that. And the last thing I would say too is that for those that possibly will listen to this episode or hear conversations like that and come up and say, oh, you guys are too soft. You know, a whooping ain't never hurt nobody. Or, you know, we always talk about Blackie and da-da-da. It's all jokes. It's all fun and games. What I want to be clear and make clear is the fact that it's all fun and games to you. You know what I'm saying? You don't feel like there's an issue wrong with it. You. Right. Stop. Let's take yourself out of the equation one time and think about or consider how the other person feels in that moment. So if you're thinking about whooping your child because he did something or she did something wrong, take yourself out of that situation and think about how you felt when that happened, you know, or think about, you know, further on in the future, if they have a child, if they end up passing down whoopings to the child and you don't want your grandchild to get whoopings or whatever, just think holistically when it comes to disciplining, you know, child, and stop being so quick to say, oh no, I was raised like that, or, you know, we was raised like that and I worked out fine. And I worked out fine and everything like that. Just, you know, take a second to step back and not be so quick to dismiss something and give something a chance, because right now is the moment. A lot of people, like you said, Deb, to your point, more people are having these conversations. A lot of more Black families are having these conversations. We're back to, you know, getting, you know, knowledgeable about these issues, you know, and it's important that we, just like you said, continue discussing them and figuring out ways to continue breaking the curses.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, y'all definitely keep having these conversations. We will. And we hope that y'all got something from this episode, from our thoughts. We hope we still looking forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions on the Black Card Revoked. If you agreed with us, if you disagreed with us, if you thought another choice was better, definitely let us know. But take care of yourselves, y'all. Take care of your families. You have these conversations with your families. If you're blessed to have your parents and your grandparents still alive, I think it's worth talking to them. If you have kids, talk to them as well, if you feel like they're old enough to have these types of conversations. But yes, y'all, we love y'all. Take care.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes, thank you so much for tuning in and listening and sharing and subscribing.
Next week is our season finale.
Yes, next week is the season finale, and we will know who the next president is next week too. It gets kind of scary.
Exactly.
Actually, right. We will know tomorrow or Wednesday, but we'll talk about it. Oh my God, Lord have mercy. God help us all. Anyway, we're not gonna end it on that note. We love y'all.
Yes, thank you guys for tuning. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Guys, have a good one, you guys.